the reason why we wanted to pick this as a topic, one, is because there's this whole pickup artist masculinity issue going on the internet that we want to address. And we want to debunk a lot of the tips and tricks and things that they talk about. And then we don't want to leave you empty hanging.
No.
We know that mating
it's not easy.
It's not easy. And there are ways to pick up people.
Yeah.
In things that are healthy, constructive, and sexy as fuck.
And honest and authentic and down to earth. And I can't imagine many things worse than being stuck in a relationship where I could never relax, where I had to lie and put on this persona that wasn't really who I was. Is that, I'm sure for some people that sounds okay. I think for most people, that's not really what you're looking for in a relationship or a partnership, right?
Well, you say that, but a lot of people do it.
They do it.
That's one. And also,
and then they feel empty inside.
They do, because they're getting value from something else. And that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today is like value, transactional value.
A lot of external validation.
Yeah. And let's be honest. I don't want to just dismiss external validation as like you have a character flaw if you seek external validation.
No, that's a universal need, is external validation.
Yeah.
Humans are pack animals, and we all crave the approval of the pack because that means safety.
Sure. Yeah. And then there are people like me who don't crave it enough and are weirdly on the sidelines of their own making.
Well, not the pack at large, because I think I'm like that too, but the approval and validation of the people whose opinions matter to me.
Yes.
That's a whole different ballgame.
Whole different ballgame.
That really does matter.
Whole different ballgame.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's dive in, Rachel. Why is there a boom in misogyny happening right now? A resurgence of
traditional values.
Traditional male values.
I think there are several reasons. I think one of them, this is you're going to hear a lot of kind of boomer opinions from me on this podcast today.
They're not. I don't think they're boomer opinions.
Okay.
But go on.
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to correct you before you even said anything.
I think that a lot of young people are feeling more and more isolated because more and more interactions are exclusively online. Yeah. And I think there is an element of being able to read people and being able to connect with people specifically in a dating and sexual structure that screens at a big level of difficulty too.
Sure.
And so we're met with this growing amount of frustration where people feel like they are not being seen, not being valued, not connecting to people, and they don't really know how to make it better. Because the way you get better at something is by really sucking at it first and then doing it over and over and over again until you learn to do it better. Yeah. And for those of us who kind of grew up before the internet really absolutely took over every single aspect of our lives, there was still a lot of in-person interaction. You know, you go through those middle school and high school growing pains of being in front of people all the time. But a lot of people have been out of school. A lot of school-age people have been out of school for going on 2 years now.
Yeah.
Some people are still out of school. And especially in like middle school and high school, those are some really, really key points where you're developing those awarenesses of social nuances. So I think that's contributing to it. It's just this desperation for connection in a world where you have less and less and less in-person interaction as time goes on.
There is also a lot of nostalgia baiting. Nostalgia baiting is this idea where I'm going to sell you on a time that you may not even been a part of. But let me tell you this. The problems you're having right now, no one's ever had those problems before.
And if we were still in this nostalgic time, those problems wouldn't even exist.
Wouldn't even exist.
Trust me.
And so when you tell people that, you go, oh, man, I would love for all my problems to just go away. It's not my fault. It's the time's fault. And this sort of nostalgia baiting, which is a huge selling thing for people. It's what the whole Make America Great Again thing, which is also Make America Great Again, wasn't the first time that phrase was used.
Oh,
It's
no,
been
it wasn't.
used 5 times by other presidents,
Yes.
maybe more. So the nostalgia baiting experience is saying, hey, kid, I know you're having a really hard time, but back in the day,
Things were amazing.
Women were lining up at our feet all the time.
And so anybody who wants to move forward in time rather than go back to those good old days, they're your enemy.
They're your enemy. And
They want you to be isolated and alone.
Yeah. And here's the crossroads that people are at. And this is the reason why, as human beings, we will fall victim to these situations. You are presented with this crossroad of either, oh my God, I either need to work really hard in an area of my life that is very challenging and scary, and I don't necessarily know how to move forward in improving myself, or
Who wants to do that?
I could blame other people and be frustrated and feel really awesome in my validation that it's everyone else's fault but mine.
And I can feel that way so fast.
So fast.
So fast.
Yeah.
And it feels really good.
And it feels really good. And that's why people do it. But what I didn't say in there, in the second option, is that it actually fixes anything. It doesn't. The thing that it does is it makes you feel better about the shitty situation that you're in. But it's not helpful because in order to actually move forward, you do need to face challenges, be uncomfortable, be vulnerable.
And also, when you outsource your problems to what other people are doing, that means that you have no control over fixing any of them because it's all dependent on others. That sounds exhausting.
Oh, I'm just sorry. I'm just reading some of the comments.
Yeah.
So why do these guys care about getting young men angry? And the very real reason is to sell you shit.
Money.
They sell you courses. They sell you supplements.
They sell you books.
They sell you books.
Financial plans.
Right,
subscriptions. I mean, the list truly goes on.
Yeah.
And
here's the thing is like the part of the reason why people are getting sucked in and a lot of parents are getting worried about it is like, one, the algorithm creates a lot of issues where it's like, let's say you like this thing and this is somewhat associated to that thing. It starts feeding you more and more of this stuff. And
it starts throwing it at you at an incredible speed. So then you see more and more of it. You interact more and more.
You build a community.
And, you know, we're all guilty of being in our own individual echo chambers. Like that's not just a feature of like the misogynistic circle jerks. Like we all have our own circle jerks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But if you say, hey, I'm having this problem, and there are 20 people around you that give you the exact same reason, and they say, hey, you're one of us now. So not only are you getting validation for outsourcing your anger, but there's somebody there that's welcoming you in rather than pushing you away because of your anger.
Yeah. I mean, listen, the really crazy thing Greg brought into a lot of people romanticizing the past and straight white males are more in control. The fundamental thing that comes with misogyny, I'm going to say it out loud, and it's an oversimplification, but it's an accurate one, is laziness. It is about conserving energy. It is saying, I'm at that fork in the road. I can become a better person, or I can plant my roots right here and make myself feel better. But the whole thing is I'm either making myself feel happy, not moving forward. So I'm conserving energy. And I'm just not spending energy by like being a better person. And what they're asking by conserving energy is that I'm going to put energy into making the world change so it's easier for me.
Into making other people change instead of making myself change to meet the needs and demands of the world.
And let's be honest. Changing yourself is hard. Putting personal growth work has a lot of challenges, and it might be easier for me to just yell at you than it is for me to go.
It is. And I think laziness I think there's a really negative connotation to the word laziness, because I don't think a lot of these people feel like they're lazy. I think a lot of people turn to this sort of philosophy because they feel like they have tried other things and they're tired, or they feel like they're running out of time or running out of options. And I don't think it's laziness. I think it's I'm sad, I'm tired, and I'm overwhelmed. And also, if you want to like take this metaphor of like, we're alphas and we run the Serengeti, what do apex predators do? They conserve energy.
Yeah, while other people do the work.
Right, exactly. What do the alpha lions do? They fucking stroll in, impregnate some females, eat the kill that's been laid out for them, and go to sleep.
Yeah.
And from a survival standpoint, you should be conserving energy. But I think humans are well past survival stage. But I think a lot of people come to this from this scarcity and survivalist sort of mindset.
That's I mean, I was using laziness again as the overbroad term to describe the decision that we make to conserve energy rather than push forward. And it is specific to self-improvement. That like not the cultural term of laziness of like, oh, you're lazy, which means you're of negative value. I mean the actual clinical definition of like, I'm opting into conserving energy versus spending it towards growth.
Absolutely.
And by the way, Peter Berube, this guy, is writing a book about these exact things, about
What?
how energy and our decisions are made based off of the model of conserving and saving energy, because that's what we need to survive.
That's what our brains are bred to do.
That's what our brains are
Conserve
only
energy
fucking doing.
at every possible turn.
Anyway.
Turns out you're not a bad person. You're just a survivalist.
You're just surviving. Right. So many of the things that we do has everything to do with our survival decisions. And that's it. So part of the other thing with this nostalgia grab, which I know is going to make Rachel very upset, but I heard it on this podcast the other day. Part of the thing about them selling men on this nostalgic time was because women were in a situation in which they had to rely on men more.
We were in a real bind.
They were in a real bind. Could not get bank accounts.
Couldn't have a credit card.
Couldn't have a credit card.
A lot of times couldn't own property, couldn't do things without a father or a husband signing off and giving permission.
Right. And so for women to survive, well, it was more necessary for them to get into situations or relationships that may not have served them very well, but helped them get that credit card or bank account. They had more incentives to say yes.
Would you rather be homeless, or would you rather be provided for and have to put up with a lot of shitty behavior in order to not be cold and hungry and out on the street?
Right.
That is the reality of what most women were faced with, unless you were coming from some sort of aristocracy. Actually, that's where the word spinster comes from. Women who were able to spin enough thread and make enough clothes or make enough textiles that they actually earned enough money on their own to exist without a father or a husband. So that's why the word spinster was applied and then turned into this negative thing of like, that's an unmarried woman.
Right.
Meanwhile, she is straight chilling, watching the money roll in, having nobody fucking tell her what to do, and just like enjoying her life.
And maybe she has lovers. Maybe she has roommates.
That oh my God, they were
that
roommates.
she lives with. And to help us pay our bills, we have Lord Servo. Thank you so much for subscribing.
Thanks.
in that tangent. Now, here's the crazy thing. So part of what these pickup artists, these internet misogynists now say is like, man, you got all these women. They have their own jobs now.
Ew.
They have their own bank accounts.
Gross.
They make their own choices, and they are opting into having a life that is satisfying and fulfilling on their own instead
Without
of settling for you.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So that means that in general, we're putting up with less because we can go get it ourselves.
Right. And so these people are like, oh man, I would love to go back to a time where, again, I didn't have to work so hard in order to get a mate.
But the implication of that is I would love to go back to a time where a woman had to be with me because she didn't have a choice.
Right.
Like is
what they're saying.
That's what they're saying.
I also want to address a really important thing, and this is something that is like, it's weirdly brought up in a lot of like men's rights groups, but I also think it is a valuable conversation to have to understand and create space for like men's feelings. Men are told through actions and deeds and stuff by the culture that we have no value until our value is earned. And one of these things that people talk about is, you know, people like Andrew Tate will use these terms around like, well, look at the Titanic. They'll say like women and children are first. And so like men are disposable. Men were often sent to war and they were treated as disposable. When men start talking about their feelings, nobody really cares. If I called into work, and I'm like, oh, I'm just not really feeling that great. I'm not met with
man up.
Well, they might not say man up necessarily, but they might go, oh, okay. It's not met with a, oh my God, you should definitely take care of yourself. It's a, wow, this seems like it's a real shortcoming on your part.
This dude really can't hack it.
Right. So there is a reason why men are going to these spaces to obtain value.
And they're all very valid reasons.
And they're very valid reasons.
They're very real.
And part of the thing is the solution is not to say, fuck you and fuck women. The solution to fixing this problem is to create more empathy for experiences men are going through.
Is to and also to challenge the expectations in the culture, because that's very much where a lot of this messaging comes from, that we don't want to hear about your feelings. We don't want to hear about your loneliness. If you're angry, that's the only thing that's going to get us to pay attention. Right. Or if you've earned enough money or status, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And this is where it's coming back to, is like, it is the value conversation. So, okay. So let's say as a man, you're like, I don't have a great job. I don't bring very much to the table. That's not very appealing to partners as a sales pitch. And I don't really have value unless like I show up to the door with something. There's also in your community of like, well, I'm not getting any partners because I don't have a lot of things going for me right now. I might not be super attractive. I might not be super fit. I still might be a really great person. But I'm not getting laid very much. And then I also don't have that value in the community. And no one is coming to help you.
No.
And that's a really big part of the communal experience, is like, through history we are taught the fragile nature that is women. and that we must
our bones are hollow like the birds.
Bones are hollow. And that like when you are suffering, we must all swoop in and show up and make sure that you're taken care of.
Well, sure, because we are the literal source of life, right. The literal source of the continuation of the human species.
Yeah. And the same treatment is not there for men. And so that creates this space around, okay, I don't have any value unless it's earned. And the only way I'm going to ever move forward in this society is to obtain value some fucking way. And that leads to really fucked up shit. And that comes from the like being trapped in a corner of like, I can't just generate value for myself. The sort of, I'm just sitting in a room and I feel really good about myself, and therefore like my problems are fixed and things are good.
No, and I think most people don't really feel that sense of inherent value. I will say, I realize that like, like my inherent value in the society at large depends a lot on my attractiveness and that's it. Attractiveness. That's it. That's all of it.
That's the whole list.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the validation that you get from that rings pretty hollow after a while.
Yeah.
And I think it leaves a lot of people feeling pretty empty and also pretty objectified. And objectification is, it seems like one of the core tenets of how to treat women in this world. We're already feeling kind of objectified, that we are reduced to, oh, sure, you have value, but your value is as a reproductive oven, an incubator, and a sexual outlet, and that's it. And the other group capitalizes on that idea.
Right.
So it's sort of like, it promises to bring men closer to women, and what it does is actually pull the groups apart more and more and more.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is going to be a very heteronormative conversation. That is not to say that there are only two genders and two groups, and each one has only
we can
one
dive
thing.
into...
But for the sake of this podcast, we're going to go into these heteronormative straight men, straight female kind of dynamics.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, before we dive into the next section, I want to, in terms of like, we just talked a lot about the dark places we can go when we don't have value, and where do you get those? And this is what this community uses, which is community. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a job, if you don't have
a ripping
body or a partner or like whatever it is, the one way to obtain value is by being out there with people. You can join a club.
Is being part of the group.
Is being part of a group. Not the overarching.
No, not
the group.
The group. Just whatever group takes you in.
If you've got a hobby, D&D. People have found incredible value by joining the D&D community. People have found incredible value by like joining a run club or ultimate frisbee.
Crafting communities.
Volunteering at a place.
Anything you can think of.
Yeah. So I'm putting this out there because if you are finding yourself in this dark place, which we have all been in various points in our lives, if you are going, oh my God, I'm feeling worthless, the way to build that worth is to add value out there into other people's spaces. Volunteering for anything is a great way to go, oh God, yeah, I'm still a fucking person. I can still like brighten somebody's day or make a difference in somebody's life.
Yeah, that starfish. You know the starfish story, right?
I don't.
So there's this starfish story. This guy's walking down on a beach, and I guess there was a big wave or something, and there's a lot of starfish just all scattered on the sand. And he sees this guy in the distance, and this guy picks up a starfish and throws it in the water. Picks up a starfish and throws it in the water. Now, there are thousands of starfish on this beach for whatever reason. And he's like, God, this guy's throwing the starfish back, but he's never going to throw all of them back. He's not even going to throw 10% of them back.
Yeah.
He's sort of, it's a drop in the bucket. So he goes up to him and says, hey, man, you know you're never going to throw all the starfish back in the ocean, right? Like, it's not really going to make a difference. And he throws one more starfish in the ocean, and he said, it made a difference to that one.
Yeah.
So if you are feeling like the world is far beyond fixing, or things are out of your control, or you're feeling worthless, sometimes all it takes is to make a difference in the life of one person, one being, one animal, and it completely changes how you feel about yourself.
Yeah.
It's not a permanent fix, but it's a step.
It's hard to remember that too, because there's so much in our modern society where we can actually measure. I've got 500,000 followers. I know I can impact the lives of 500,000 people. And someone's like, I've only got 25 followers and I should just not do this anymore because like, what's the point? It's hard because we want so many of us want to impact the world in such a way. And you can for those 25 people.
I mean, that's totally my style. I am not a overseer of large groups. I am a one-to-one kind of person. because I genuinely think that is where real change happens. And that's how this group gets people in.
Yeah.
Reach out to one person at a time who's feeling alone and isolated and needs validation and needs acceptance.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked about how they do it, why they do it. Let's talk about what they do. The Pickup Artist Playbook. And now I'm going to say something because this is not me condoning it. There are tactics in the Pickup Artist Playbook that work.
They work.
On some, not always.
No, but they work enough.
Yeah.
On enough people.
They work on enough people because ultimately what they're not selling you in this whole being a shithead pickup arts experience is that it's a fucking numbers game, which is you're going to get 50 no's before you get a yes. And that's just because you asked a lot of people.
Well, and what I will say is there is a lot of value in learning to take rejection gracefully and have it just kind of roll off your back.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of strength to be found in taking the stakes out of like an interaction, a dating situation, a pickup situation by assuming that the odds are you'll be rejected and being okay with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I feel like for a lot of people, if they're trying to talk to someone they're attracted to, it gets built up in their head before it even happens. And then you feel like you're tripping over your own words, or there's this scarcity mentality of like, this is my one and only shot.
Well, this comes down to the energy conversation, which is what my book is about. By the way, I don't know why I'm plugging my book. Somebody asked me about it the other day.
The book that's not totally written yet.
No, it is written. It's being edited.
Done?
Yeah, girl.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Where have I been?
I'm doing rewrites on it. But anyway, sidebar. Part of what happens in this energetic exchange is I'm looking at this person that's sitting at the coffee table and I'm like, oh man, I could totally go over there. And while I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about how great the conversation's going to go, how great our date's going to go, all the beautiful things that are going to happen and blossom in our lives. Oh my God, it's going to be amazing. And what I've done is I've built up potential energy that I'm genuinely feeling. In my brain, it's real.
But you're the only one that's feeling it.
And it doesn't matter because here's why we will stay in this place versus going over and talking to the person. It's a risk going over there. Now, I can either hold on to this potential energy, which is very real for me, or I can go over there, throw the dice, and it can either go one of two ways. It could be either good or bad. If it goes bad, I lose all of this. This fantasy that I've had, gone.
That you're now invested in.
That I've now invested in, gone. However, there is the chance that like I could get a yes and then whew, there's another boost. Okay. But part of the reason why we'll stay here is because I can ride this potential energy wave for a long time. I can walk out of here thinking about what it would have been like, go home, think about that person that I never approached. Eventually, yeah, it's going to dissipate, but
for a while.
But the thing is though, I got this potential energy boost in my life with no risk.
You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of like telling people that you're starting a weight loss journey.
Yes. Yeah.
And you start to get that like validation of the thing that you haven't even done yet.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that will hinder progress and hinder the push forward because your brain is already getting those feel good chemicals, even though you haven't done it yet.
And then the only thing that's left is the cost of doing it.
Right.
Which is like 100% the Donald Trump method of doing everything, of being like, I'm a billionaire. I tell people I'm a billionaire. It's like, I don't actually have to be a billionaire. I can get all the value and recognition and bank loans of being a billionaire without putting any of the work in. And there's a ton of that in our society right now. So the other thing is with what you're talking about before about like practicing taking your shot and practicing getting rejection. There was this guy who I don't remember his name. He did this study a very long time ago where he was committed to asking 100 people out on a date. Did you hear about this?
In one night?
No, just for a month.
Great. Okay.
100 people out.
So what happened?
He got very good at asking people out.
Shocker.
But that was it. It was a science experiment that he ran. What he started doing was he started finding subtle nuances and how to approach people. He started finding subtle nuances in the phrasing of things as he went along. His hit ratio started going higher and higher. And it was really just because he did something over and over and over again. And that is universal when it comes to growth.
The first step to being good at something is sucking at something.
Right.
And then you suck less.
So, number one, if you really want to get good at asking people out, ask a lot of people out.
Yeah.
And you can do so with the I'm going to do it very nicely and ethically. And I even just want to know, I just want to practice approaching somebody. And then when someone's like, oh yes, here, have a seat. You're like, oh, okay.
And also let me say this, just as a woman in the marketplace, in the commons, we can tell often when the stakes have been built up and when you're really sweating it out.
Yeah.
And when it feels like you really need us to say yes, it is not super attractive. At the same time, someone who's totally dismissive and clearly is just playing the numbers game and really has no care at all, also unattractive. It's this nice balance of, hey, I'd like to get to know you, but it's not going to ruin my fucking life if you say no, because I have a full life and a lot of other stuff going on. I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, well, because the asks are different. The person that's coming over, again, coming back to the energy thing, my book coming out next year. That person that's coming up with you that's really rehearsed this and desperate, the thing that they're asking you, a stranger who doesn't know them, is not small. They're coming to you and they're saying, hey, can you hold this 50-pound ton of bricks for me? You're like, I can hold a brick.
Hey, brick.
I'm fine with us sharing holding a brick, but I don't fucking know you. Why would I come and now have to hold the emotional weight of the very massive risk that you're taking?
I don't owe you this.
I don't owe you this. And I'm going to say no, not because I don't even know anything about you. Maybe we could hit it off, but you've asked me a really big thing. We've talked about this before, about modulating your asks with people. Talking about the tactics, let's talk about negging.
Oh,
Rachel, God. Why does negging work?
Negging works because people are insecure and they seek validation. Women seek validation too. Yeah. It's not just men. We're all in this fucking pool together and it's miserable. But this whole process of giving a tiny bit of approval that is conditional, and some people are able to do it in a way that's kind of funny, kind of teasing. It does make you crave more, right? If someone is just free with the compliments, you're the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen, you queen, you goddess, you whatever, you're not actually saying anything about me as a person. But if someone says something, I guess, that's a little more specific and something they've noticed about you, but they're kind of teasing you about it, then all of a sudden that interrupts the script of how you're used to these interactions going, right? And anything that can form a surprise in an interaction will instantly make somebody wake up and pay attention. Mm-hmm. And when something is scarce and they give you a little bit of it, our natural reaction is to want more.
Yeah, there's that values assessment. Absolutely. So there's that person that if there's one of your friends that goes and they see every movie and they're like, it was great. Every movie was great. And that's just not true.
No.
Okay.
And will you ever ask that friend for advice on what movie to watch?
Never.
No.
Never. You don't value their opinion. But a person that rarely offers their opinion or
rarely offers their approval.
Rarely offers their approval. And I want to say, because I don't think it's about approval if I'm there's something about that feels weird. And it's because I'm one of these people that like doesn't just hand out compliments.
Oh no.
And so much of it has to do with like I only say it if I actually mean it. I don't do filler compliments. So if I do say that thing to you,
it has a higher
value and I mean it. And so what's happening with these overly confident pickup artists that are approaching you is like they're doing a mix of, I don't know, it's like, oh, your eyes are too close, or like, I don't the
or like
subtle negging.
Wow, you're really pretty for somebody whose eyes are too close together. But that's
that is the example of what it is.
And here's the thing, like, if you're a person that is very confident in how they look and how they come across, you're just going to go, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Right.
And walk away. And that's not going to work on somebody who is confident and sure in themselves. But an approach like that might work on somebody that doesn't feel super confident.
And part of the reason why it works is because they're saying this person is a valuable person. And it also makes me feel super special because they said that I was pretty despite this thing about myself. And I don't think they've said that about any other girl in the room. They probably are really mean to other girls, but the fact that they're over here throwing compliments at me makes me feel higher value in this room or this bar or wherever.
Can I just give a spoiler alert? If you're dating somebody and they're nice to you, but they're mean to everybody else, they are going to be mean to you. It will happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Yeah.
Done.
Right.
Done.
And but that is the thing though, is like people start to go, oh, I feel really special in this situation because I see my partner being mean to other people and they're not mean to me, which means I must be an elevated person in the community.
I am special.
Yeah. But it works. It's part of like giving that person value in that moment. And what's important about that negging thing is like it's giving a person value that is a stranger that you don't know yet. Because when you walk up into a space, unless like you know each other, like I know that you're some amazing author and I'll take your advice on this thing. This is just another person. You don't know what their history is, but a statement,
you don't know what their value is.
You know what their value is. But a statement like that will make them feel temporarily good and temporarily elevated enough to lubricate the conversation.
Yeah, enough to, okay, I'll listen to more of what you have to say.
Yeah.
Since you're so discerning.
And the reason why I specifically chose the term lubricating the conversation is because what's going to happen moving forward is there's going to be a lot of other rough parts that come up. And there's sort of like easing things along so that you will also ignore those other red flags, which comes along with being a pickup artist.
So many red flags.
Any other negging things you want to add?
Here's the thing. Negging has never worked on me. And I think negging has never worked on me because I was lucky enough to grow up in a household where, you know, like my parents aren't together anymore, but I saw them be together and happy and loving towards each other. Oh. And so negging does not click something in my brain as this is love, this is care, this is something to look for. I think a lot of people who possibly grow up around people who claim to love each other, but are actually like really mean to each other and are kind of chaotic around each other, there's a comfort and a familiarity there.
Yeah.
So even if the negging feels a little bit bad, it also feels familiar and it feels right. And there is a lot of therapy and processing that you need to go through to disabuse yourself of this view of what a relationship is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
So I may not be the best person to ask about negging because I've never been I like the bad boy. I like the guy who's kind of a dick to me. I like when people are really nice to me. Like, I like when they have a backbone and stand up
Yeah.
for themselves, but I've only ever gotten into relationships and been attracted to people who like treat me with respect and are nice to me.
Well, this is a truth in the animal kingdom, and it's also a truth in the pickup artist misogyny community. Is they go after the wounded ones.
Right. And let me make it clear, I'm definitely wounded in other ways.
For sure. But the thing is though, is like when I say going after the wounded ones, you know, you've got a pack of gazelles and there's one that's got a little bit of a limp.
Whew.
All of the lions are going after that one.
That's the one you want.
That's the one they're going
That is
after.
the one you want.
They are not going after the faster ones at the front. And again, it comes back to the energy thing. My book coming out this year.
Say it again. Say it one more time.
Is because that one, you're going to get the same amount of food out of the fast one or the wounded one.
Yeah.
The other one, you might not even get. You might lose a bunch of energy and get nothing for it. This one, you'll lose a moderate amount of energy.
But there's a higher likelihood
You're going to get that meal out of it.
Yeah.
This is the same thing that pickup artists use in how they talk about scoping out who you're going to approach.
When they talk about looking for body language, you're most of these guys are not looking for someone who is carrying herself with a lot of confidence, who is looking people directly in the eye, who is participating in conversations. They're looking for maybe subdued body language,
The meek
eyes
one in the
darting
corner.
around, avoiding eye contact, listening more than they're speaking by a very large degree. You know, there are literal visual cues that they look for.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's kind of the same philosophy behind what he just got arrested for, which is sex trafficking. It's also advised to look for people that aren't going to fight you, that are vulnerable, that clearly need support, need protection, need something. And those are the ones that you should focus your attentions on.
Here's the thing. You step into this situation with a faux white knight attitude of, here you are, this meek, quiet thing in the corner. You're probably having a really bad night. All I have to do is come over here and make you feel like a special, valuable person.
For a couple of minutes. And that will pave the way for a lot of much shittier treatment later on, because then they're always going to want to get back to those 10 seconds that felt really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Next trick in the trade, peacocking. What is peacocking, Rachel? Do you know it?
It's men thinking that they're showing off and doing something really impressive, and specifically putting other people down to make themselves look better. And it is also very cringe inducing.
Yeah. It's elevating their value, quote unquote, in the adjacent community.
In the marketplace.
And there's also, peacocking can also be done just by dressing in like very bright, outrageous, you know, that's like
literal peacocks.
Like literally peacocks. Like, no, it's like they in this time period, Ed Hardy was a big thing.
Oh my God, do you remember Ed Hardy with
big
the rhinestones?
And the rhinestones.
Oh,
yeah.
Trash. But it's also from, you know, talking about your either sexual or professional exploits, talking about how many cars you have, all of
Andrew
these
Tate's best Twitter message to Greta Thunberg was peacocking.
Right, was about like, his cars.
By the way, I'm just going to sort of drop in my tweet that I have 30 cars. But I can't just put that in a post because that sounds sad and desperate.
Because it is.
It's sad and desperate all around, but I've got to address it to somebody to put someone else down to peacock myself.
Right. And it's all in the hopes of catching the attention of the females, but I think what it actually does is it catches the attention of other men more than it does women, or that's what it seems like anyway.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Part of what we're talking about now is like, why does peacocking work?
Oh, well, peacocking works because if you can make it seem like you do have a lot of money, or you do, let's just say resources. If you have collected a lot of resources or value, there will be people who want access to those resources, whether it's because they need more protection or whether it's because they want to somehow try to manipulate you into giving away some of the things that you've earned. Like, this, we've all heard the term gold digger, and we're not going to get into like the misogynistic roots of that word, but there absolutely are women who will like, hear you talking about a job or a car or whatever and go, oh, I'm going to zero in on this guy because I'm going to see how much I can get from him. So it will work in the short term. Absolutely.
Greg just asked, would the tendency of teen boys that do stupid shit to try to impress a girl count as a type of peacocking? Absolutely. It absolutely does. So here's another part of the peacocking thing. Again, the energetic experience that's happening. You're presenting yourself as a person with a vast amount of energy that also has plenty to spare and doesn't care about other people's opinions. The person that is the sort of like vulnerable, meeker person that is maybe in a depressive state is probably not taking very many risks right now.
Right.
They're looking at this person and going, oh my God, I wish I was that brave. Oh my God, I wish I was taking risks like that.
Maybe if I'm near them, some of it will rub off on me.
Right. And there is that idolization of that person's behavior because they're like, that person seems carefree, seems successful,
seems confident
because they're taking a lot of very big risks, and they also have energy to spare. And that is just a valuable resource.
And let me be clear that women peacock too. The thing is, for women, a lot of the time, it all comes down to looks, and that's it, right? Like, no, very few people have said, oh, get a high paying job and show off how much money you earn, and then the men will come running to you.
Well,
that almost never happens.
Because what we're talking about is statistics and fishing lures. And the reason why I say that is because fishing lures, you presenting that same information is going to attract men that are interested in those things. So if somebody said that to me, if they're like, I'm a research scientist, I'd be like, oh my God, please fucking talk to me.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, right.
When I make a dating profile and it's like, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
I'm usually like, I love down-to-earth people with great smiles, and I love artsy types, right? Like, if you can show me that you have some kind of creative skill, passion, or interest, that already puts you ahead of the pack for me. So, like, somebody with a guitar or being up on a stage doing karaoke or, like, next to a piece that they painted, that's peacocking that would work on me 100%.
Right.
Regardless of gender, I'd be like, ooh, yeah, you artsy fuck, get over here.
Yeah, but the reason why I use the fishing lure analogy is because some people are just trying to catch fish.
Any fish.
They just use a hook and bait. Other people who are trying to catch very specific fish dress that fishing lure up in a very specific way.
Yes.
Because they're going fishing for that fish. Those fishing lures are more expensive.
And they're more complicated.
They're more complicated. They take a little bit more time.
They're more specific.
And you're going to catch less fish because you're only going after this smaller section of the population.
Yeah, you will catch fewer fish, but the odds are
you'll catch better fish.
You will want to keep more of the fish that you catch.
Right. Yeah, fishing lures, everybody.
Who knew?
Why do men peacock with their profile pic showing off them catching fish in Tinder profiles? Answer the
I can provide for you. I think that's a part. I genuinely think that's a part of it. Yeah. I can provide for you. I also think this is something I really like to do with my time. If you also like to fish, that's cool. Or The only time anyone's ever taken a photo of me is after I've caught a fish. So this is what I have.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them doing some peacocking of their own because they're the ones that picked the photo. So they're saying, this was a big moment for me. This is where I felt of really high value. I'm out there living an exotic life catching.
I'm not just home all day.
I'm not just home all day.
Fishing.
I'm out fishing.
No, and honestly, that's the core of a lot of dating photos, right? Like if it's just 5 photos in a row of you in front of a wall, smiling in different poses, it's not really going to work. What do people try to do on dating profiles? I'm going to show a picture where I'm hiking. I'm going to show a picture where I'm really dressed up.
Where I was on the side of a cliff. I was like video cameraing off. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, look at me. I'm a daredevil and I like to be outside. You're trying to give as much information about yourself as possible. You're trying to make yourself look as interesting as possible. So it's funny that we talk about peacocking because online dating, you have to peacock because otherwise somebody's going to swipe right through your profile immediately.
Well, I think we might be conflating because peacocking is addressing specifically the toxic put on use of it as opposed to just what we have to do, which is present ourselves
with our best foot forward. Sure. No. I think peacocking inherently describes overinflating whatever skill or value you're trying to demonstrate. Like it's not actually genuine. And it also involves somehow putting other people down so you look better by comparison. I think those are the key like toxic elements of it.
There's like traits in there. I remember somebody talking about it on like some deep dive where it's like you find ways to casually show your bank account.
Oh my God.
Like looking up like a number like on your phone or like, oh, I gotta check my card.
Oh no, my Wells Fargo is open. Right. That's embarrassing.
Or just drop my black credit card, whatever it is. So those are reasons it works. What's that? Going after vulnerable women. We already talked about that. Oh, there is a phrase that I want to sort of like readdress, and this isn't specifically in the misogyny pickup artist community. They talk about older women you go after younger women because older women have a lot of baggage.
You don't want those old harpies.
Yeah. Who are fed up with dealing with shitty toxic people.
Yeah, and you terms like jaded are used a lot. Oh, older women are so jaded. They're not fun. They complain. When what's really happening is older women often have seen this bullshit before, have seen what it leads to, and don't want to go through it again. And when they say they're being harpies, what they really mean is these women aren't afraid to call people out on shitty behavior. They're not afraid to hold people accountable. They're not afraid to say to someone, hey, what you're doing is not working for me. In fact, it's hurting me. And I'd like you to stop, or I'd like us to try a different approach. Yeah. And if somebody has not a very well-developed sense of self, if somebody doesn't have the capacity or the belief in themselves that they could change those patterns, then they'd rather leave that relationship and find somebody who isn't going to call them out on those behaviors, who's going to bite their tongue and keep it to themselves.
Yeah. The general summary around the whole pickup artist community and situation is, how do you take advantage of the weakest portion of the population for your own personal gain?
And there's also a lot of rhetoric around why we should go for this population outside of because they're the most vulnerable.
Yeah. They're trying to tell you that that's not what's happening.
No, there's so much energy put into, well, their eggs are young and their bodies are tighter, and so they have the most value in the sexual marketplace because all they're there for is for us to fuck and impregnate anyway. So as long as that's all they're worth, and obviously the younger ones are of higher value anyway. There's so much effort put into, oh, no. it's not because we're predators. We're going for younger women because they have fresher eggs.
Yeah.
They're hotter.
And what the real statement in the pickup artist community is, and this is true about Andrew Tate, please somebody send this to him, is that they don't have what it takes to pick up a grown-ass, intelligent, sexually empowered woman.
They don't.
They sadly lack all of the skills to appeal to them in any possible way.
They really, really, really don't.
And they're trying to make it cool to scrape what you can from the bottom.
The older I get, the less I understand what the fuck a 40-year-old has in common with a 20-year-old. Like, by the time I hit 28, I was already looking at men and women 22, 23, which is not that much younger than 28. And I was like, you're a fucking child. What do I have to, What are we going to talk about? We are clearly in two such different places in our lives already. I could not imagine at 35 dating a 21-year-old.
No.
What, right? Doesn't that sound like an absolute fucking nightmare? And I get that, like, age is just a number, and in individual cases, I'm sure sometimes there are exceptions, but there aren't as many exceptions as there are older men going for younger women. Yeah. Period.
Well, here's another part of the older men going for younger women and younger women going for older men. The older men going for younger women, especially in terms of like their experience of time and what it is they may be looking for. A lot of men will ride that wave of not having children for a longer period of time.
And then all of a sudden.
And what they'll do is they'll go, oh, well, I'm going to look younger because they're in the same mental space about having children
and they want
or living the same lifestyle. I want to feel young and cool.
Sure.
You know, there's a lot of those things. And also I want the least resistance in my life of like, I don't want someone that's going to have a lot of opinions.
And don't get me wrong. Like I see the value exchange between I want someone who wants to give me kids because I'm ready for that, and somebody else going, I want somebody who's going to provide for me because I'm 22. And who the fuck is providing for themselves to the extent that they want to at 22? Almost nobody. So, you know, two people are bringing things that they know the other person wants to the table. And I see that. I do. But very often in those kinds of relationships, there are problems down the line because the younger person does not know how to hold the older person accountable for shitty actions. They don't even know how to phrase talking about it, forget about holding them to task.
There's also on the women's side looking for older men, there is an attempt to appreciate and maturity that happens in women's lives, which is also because of those like time markers that we've talked about like, okay, you're a teenager, and then the next phase is you're a woman, and then the next phase is you're a mom. And so part of the things that we sell girls is like, hey, aren't you excited about this next chapter? I think you should start getting yourself ready for that. They're pushing for maturity
Motherhood
and growth. Whereas on the boy side of things, it's like, I'm actually looking to like maintain this one brief, very cool young period
forever. As long as
I possibly can.
Well, and I also want to say that a lot of women are forced to mature a little bit earlier because our lives and personal safety are on the line much more often. The thing that I always keep in the back of my head when we're talking about these dynamics between men and women is that every single time people with uteruses have more to lose and more to risk coming to the table than people with penises do. Period. End of story. We are just at more risk. Always. We have more to lose. There is more potential damage that can be done to us, whether it's physical or the consequences of sexual interactions. We always have more on the table. And so we have to mature a little bit earlier. We have to seek out protection a little bit earlier. There's just a lot more weight in our decisions when it comes to dating.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. I also kind of coming back to what we were talking about in the beginning, about men losing value, there are things that are sort of like built in society where like they think that we don't have anything to lose and that we'll just bounce back from things. So like one of the biggest examples I can say is like when it comes to divorce, losing custody.
Absolutely.
It's generally treated like whatever, you don't have custody anymore and it's going to go to this person. And why do you care? Isn't it great that you have more freedom now? It's like, I just lost my kids. And there is the whole mentality of, you didn't carry them in your body. And so that losing them doesn't have the same value to you. It's like,
which is insane.
Okay. But like, they're still my kids and
Yeah.
I have that bond and connection and they're
And I
a
have
really big part of
raised
my
them
life.
as soon as I was able to.
Right. And it's weird that everyone is just so easily willing to say, oh, it's fine. You're not going to be a part of their lives for nearly as much anymore.
Right, but where does that come from? Like all of these things that damage men can be traced back to the exact same thing that damage women, where women are expected to be the incubators and the caretakers. Yeah. And it's supposed to be expected that men aren't going to be nearly as involved in that process, nor should they want to be.
That's the whole thing is like we've carried on a lot of toxic traits over the generations. And the thing that's coming out now, which I love and I think is very interesting, is that people are starting to recognize that neither party wants this.
No, and this is what we're talking about when you hear phrases like toxic masculinity or toxic patriarchal culture. We're not saying that men are awful and that all men are toxic and that everything is the fault of men. That is not what is being said. What's being said is that in this system, this patriarchal system where men are expected to take the lead and have power in a lot of different areas
and don't have value unless they do,
is creating shitty situations for everybody, just in different ways.
Right.
This expectation that men aren't going to be around to raise their kids means that men are not the first ones considered in custody battles, but it also means that women are not the ones to be trusted in the workplace if they haven't had a kid yet, because, oh, well, obviously you're not going to be as good of an employee once you do have a kid. And that's just, it's the tip of the fucking iceberg.
Yeah.
And I want to make clear, Andrew Tate is a toxic person.
Oh,
he is not just a victim.
If we haven't said it,
he's not just a victim of toxic masculinity. He is actively a horrible, toxic,
garbage person. Yeah.
But I do want to separate that, like when we say toxic masculinity, toxic patriarchal culture, I'm not saying that men suck, men have no value.
Men destroyed the world.
Men shouldn't expect help. Men don't deserve help and support. Like, that is the complete opposite.
That is actually what the patriarchal system is set up, is that you don't get support.
You don't get support.
Help, or get to be like a stay-at-home dad without being shamed for being a failure in other ways, you know? And the crazy thing about it is it's not just some crazy system. It is intrinsically built into our bones in these subconscious ways that we don't realize are happening all the time.
It's steeped into everything.
Yeah.
Even as far as medical training, medical training is all based off of white male bodies.
Yeah. Because they're quote less complicated.
They're less complicated. Car crashes. Women are so much more likely to die in car crashes because the dummies are all based on a male figure. And a lot of the time, like, seatbelts don't fit women correctly if they have large bosoms. Seatbelts don't fit pregnant women correctly. Like, we're literally at more risk from dying in a car accident.
Are there pregnancy seatbelts?
There are some pregnancy seatbelts, but there certainly isn't like any like government approved, like this is the gold standard for where it should be. There are some extenders or it like changes the angle, but
now I'm concerned. How are you seatbelting right now?
I'm seatbelting normally.
Are you okay?
I guess so.
Okay.
I've only got 8 weeks left of this shit.
I know.
So like, let's ride this train.
But now I'm just like, I need to fucking talk to somebody. My fucking pregnant friend here has got to deal with a regular goddamn seatbelt.
But that's what I'm talking about. That like so many of these parts of like the patriarchy, it just gets taken out of proportion when it's pointed out that it's imbued into every little piece of society.
Yeah. Well, let's get to the real good part, which is why you're here. How do you ethically pick up people? Let's give the
what is
tips
the
and
opposite
tricks.
of what Andrew Tate does?
Listen, you want to go out there, you want to have sex. Sex is fun, and it should be fun for both parties, or as many people are there.
And let me be clear about something. A broken clock is right twice a day, right? Mm-hmm. There are some things, or some places of origin that the things Andrew Tate says come from that I kind of agree with, like coming into an interaction with confidence. Mm-hmm. Not a bad thing, right? Not a bad thing at all. Negging, not so much, but like being able to like tease, like if you can give someone a little bit of shit and you can take them talking shit back at you, that's fun. That's part of flirting. That keeps it interesting.
Yeah, there is something to the lowering of value if all you're throwing at this person is compliments. If you find everything they say interesting, you're fucking up. No. If you're just like, oh wow. It's like, I have 30 cats. That's so cool and so brave of you. Amazing. Yeah, I just hit a homeless person on the way here. It's like, oh, wow. And you were able to just drive your car. That's spectacular. Like if you're just a yes person that has no opinion, you are offering no value anymore.
And you're boring.
And you're boring as fuck.
You're boring.
But I want to start from the beginning, which is like the big part of where people really mess up when they're out in the dating scene. Who you choose to approach.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Okay. Some of the reasons why people really mess up in the dating space is because they are going after people. And I'm not talking about, this is not like a tier of attraction
like
level.
Out of your league. We're not talking about that. Shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot. They are going after people who do not have the same value system as they do. So like the example I give is, if you're out the bar and you're like, wow, that person is a fashionista, super into fashion, very well dressed. I can also tell that they're looking around at this space and they're like eyeing, or all their friends are incredibly well dressed. They're eyeing other people in the space that are also incredibly well dressed. If you're not in that fashion tier, do not approach this person. No. And the reason why is because that person in their outward messaging is this thing, this putting on of clothes and getting decked out or whatever, is of high value to me.
This is very important to me.
I surround myself with other people who also do the same. If you are not in that community's vibe, not the place for you. You're not going to walk up and be like, hey, I'm a really good listener and a great teammate.
Do you like my Target polo shirt?
Do you like my Target polo shirt? It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
And I'll say the same thing for if you see somebody at the bar who has, let's say, defined arm muscles, who has a lower body fat percentage, who is maybe drinking a club soda and is not 4 beers in. If you haven't been to the gym in a while and you have no desire to go to the gym, if you're not the kind of person that wants to do a hike or a yoga class, if just being physically active is not something that's important to you, don't fucking talk to that person.
Right.
Not like stay away from them, you plebeian, but just like this person probably places a high value on staying active. And if you are like me and my partner, where if we have a night off, we're fucking ordering takeout and watching horror movies and staying in like the fucking trash pandas we are. Like, you want to up your chances of success, right?
Yeah.
So if you're going for someone that seems to have a value system different than what you do just off the bat, you're making it harder for yourself.
What's up, gang? We're getting rated right now.
Oh, man.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. Winning team, Cast Raid. Thank you, guys. We're talking about picking people up at the bar.
And how to do it in an ethical way. In an ethical way.
Okay, so you look at the person, you're at the bar. Think to yourself for a second. Look around to the group of people they're with. Is there a common thread? Are these a bunch of artists? Are these a bunch of fashion stars? Are these regular? Are these people are they laughing?
Is there literally anything that you could use to open a line of conversation besides hello?
Wait, before we've even gotten there, because I still don't want them to approach unless this makes any goddamn sense to talk to that person. The next step in this observation is asking yourself, why am I attracted to this person? And it may seem like a very dumb and obvious thing, but nobody tends to ask themselves that.
No, it's just am I attracted? It's a 1 or a 0.
Yeah.
It's a binary system.
They go, that person's hot. I should do that.
My penis likes that person.
My penis likes that person. And this will give you really valuable information. So if you're just like, hey, I just find that person physically attractive, that's going to be what your approach is.
Right.
And
we'll know.
Because don't walk over to someone that you're just physically attractive and be like, I think you have a really beautiful mind. Because you don't think that.
But here's the thing. Don't get me wrong. I think there are different ways to phrase, I know I don't know you, but I thought you were really attractive and I just wanted to see if I could get to know you better.
Yeah.
Or like, God, you have a really great laugh. I wanted to see what was making you laugh so hard.
Oh my God. What a great opener. Everybody write that one down.
Because we all know, like, if you're at a bar, you know if somebody's coming up to you for the first time, they don't have a lot to go on all the time.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to advocate for. Try to find something to go on. Like if I see someone in a bar and I'm attracted to them, it's usually because they look like they're having a good time. They look like they're at ease with themselves, or maybe they just have like a really great smile.
Yeah. And here's the funny things about the reason why I'm asking you to like stop. Oh my God, thanks for the subs. Look at all these wonderful people that are here with us right now. Part of the reason why I want you to stop and assess a situation before you walk over there is because in your observation of them in the group, you might find really great openers like the laugh line that you had. You might notice that, oh my God, they're really friendly with that bartender. And a great thing that you can go over there when you're ordering a drink and be like, hey, seem to know this place really well. Is there something that you can recommend?
Or, hey, I'm having trouble getting the attention of the bartender.
Yeah.
Like, can I buy you a drink if you get his attention for me?
Yeah. See? All of these are non-confrontational openers. And again, it should be with a person that exists in your sphere of value. If you're like, hey, the thing that I have to offer is I'm a really funny fucking person. I'm going to walk over there. I'm not going to do a 5-minute stand-up act, but like,
please don't. Please don't.
But like, I'm going to lean on my humor a little bit, or like, I'm really fit. I'm going to lean on my looks a little bit, or like, don't go with generic things like I really love puppies, because fucking everyone loves puppies.
Some people don't love puppies, and what is wrong with those people?
And that's not a person that you want to talk to. Don't talk to people that don't love puppies. That don't love puppies. And that's a good line.
Unless you also don't love puppies, psychopath.
You can walk up to someone and be like, "Hey, do you like puppies?" And if they're like, "Yeah," it's like, "Okay, great. Just want to make sure you're not a monster." Now, with a person that has a great sense of humor that's been laughing, that will be a great opener.
It really would. If someone just came up to me and was like, do you like puppies?
I'm taking a survey. I found another person here.
Or even better yet, I just have this exceptionally cute picture of a puppy and I just needed to share it with somebody.
That seems too cheesy.
No, but if it was a cute enough picture of a puppy and if they said it with the right tone and to be fair, I found some part of them physically attractive off the bat, I'd probably ask to see a picture of the puppy because it's dumb, but it's also not like mean or aggressive, and it's kind of silly. But in those silly pickup lines, I feel like there is this acknowledgement of how ridiculous the entire like pickup scenario is.
Yeah.
It kind of, there's this sort of acknowledgement of the truth of like, I don't really have much of a reason to talk to you other than I find you attractive. I'd like to find other reasons, but I just want to open a conversation.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's like, oh, you know, you look silly. And because you know you look silly, you're letting yourself be a little bit vulnerable in front of me. And I kind of like that.
Yeah. Well, this is going to break into two tiers. How do you approach somebody that is there by themselves versus there in a group?
Well,
because there's different body language things that we're, and there's different
Absolutely.
ways of approaching those people.
If someone's there by themselves, you need to look for indications that they actually want to talk to someone. First of all,
They're reading a book,
leave them the fuck alone.
headphones.
Leave them alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they are not making eye contact, if they're really focused on the book, if someone is alone and looks like they're crying, leave them alone. They don't want to talk to you. They know why you're coming up to them. Leave them the fuck alone. If anything, maybe they want to talk to the bartender after 3 drinks if they're not too busy. But that's it.
Okay.
That is really it.
What are some signals that let you know they are interested in talking to some people?
So if they don't have a book in front of them, it's a really good start.
Yeah.
But you know, if they're drinking and not like 1,000-yard stare, you don't want to fuck with.
They're looking around.
But if they're taking a sip and they're looking around, if they are continually opening their body language to other parts of the room of like, hey, let me kind of scan the scene. Let me see if I can make eye contact with anyone. If you can make eye contact with them before you walk up to them, if they glance at you and look away really quickly and don't look back, probably leave them alone. But maybe if you make eye contact and then eye contact is made again and there isn't a total closing off of their body language, it's an approach with caution.
Yeah. I also, and the reason why we're sort of like slowing this process down so much is because dickful thinking will get in your way from reading any of these signals.
Every time.
So it's like you might see that person who makes eye contact with you and they turn away immediately. You might go, I still want to go over there, so I'm going to ignore the signal that she gave me.
Don't ignore the signals.
Don't ignore the signal. Stop. Man, if you want to approach somebody, the biggest thing to do is like, take a second. They might not be maybe they're leaving right now. And if they're leaving right now, that's going to end things anyway. But like,
I will also say, in terms of the looking around the room, if someone looks like they keep looking towards the entrance and looks like they're waiting for somebody, leave them alone.
Right.
You know, because there's a difference between like checking out the scene and like, you know, like read the room.
So we've seen the person sitting by themselves. There's all kinds of indicators that you shouldn't go. They're looking around. If they're chatting up the bartender, that might be a good thing. That's like, hey, they're just maybe looking to talk to people. These are all green light signals. Now, what about with groups?
With groups, watch them interact with the group. Are they interacting flirtily with anyone else in the group? And by that, I mean, every time they laugh, are they looking towards someone? I know this is such a stupid trick, but if I'm in a group of people and I laugh, more often than not, I will look at the person that I am the most into or want to be the closest to see how they are also reacting to the thing I laughed at.
Strongest bond,
exactly. So if there's a lot of like eye contact with one person, if there's arm touching, hair ruffling, shoulder bumping with one person, arm around another person, maybe move on.
Don't approach. Part of the reason, one, it's going to be tough. This is going to be a tough fight. So that's like maybe conserve your energy. The other reason is you approaching in this situation may jeopardize whatever they have currently build up with this other person. And if you approach and they start kind of flirting with you back, but are still checking out that person, you are being used in this moment.
Being used.
Yeah.
You are a pawn.
You are a pawn
in the game.
Squid, don't worry. You have 0 people reading skills. That's what we're trying to break this down into like tangible signals. So approaching the group, you can't approach it like you're picking off the herd, which is like a big thing that happens in like these negging pickup artist kind of things that they like. I'm going to make her feel shit by talking to this other person that they're, I'm going to make them jealous.
I'm going to talk to her prettier friend.
Right.
I'm
right.
going to.
To make them more insecure or whatever.
Right.
When you're approaching a group, approach the group. You can sort of situate yourself. Like, let's say a bunch of people are all playing pool. This person that I'm interested in approaching is sort of like hanging out on the side, waiting for their turns. Come in, talk a group. Oh my God, you guys are playing pool. Can we jump in the next round? Great. How's the game been going? Are you a pool shark? Are you hitting it today? I'm inconsistent. Sometimes I'm a pool shark. Other times I can't do anything.
Or even like if people are talking loudly and they say something that you actually have a response to, I think it can be handled in a way where you can sort of say, hang on a second. Did you just say, I'm so sorry, guys. I didn't mean to interrupt, but did you just say blah, blah, blah? Because, and then if you say it in a jovial, friendly, laid back kind of manner, I think a lot of times that's another good opening too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, I overheard a part of your conversation.
Yeah.
And I need to talk about this for just a hot second.
You know what's a really great thing, and this is going to sound kind of dumb / obvious. A really great conversational tactic is talking about reality.
Talking about reality.
A thing that is happening. The reason why observational comedy works with people is because we all find connection. No, unlike.
No, I thought you were talking about like, so do you think we're in the Matrix?
No. I mean like talking about reality as in like, this is the thing that's happening in the room. If you're like, hey, I just overheard you. That is you coming forward and being honest and vulnerable. It is the thing that happened. The people in the room read that as an authentic exchange of, I too have been in a space where I have overheard.
We all can see that this is what happened. We all see
this instantly builds connection and rapport with a group, because part of the reason why we love observational humor is we all agreeing that something is what it is.
A shared experience.
Airplane food is bad. Oh my God. I think the same thing too. Playing pool is hard.
Why is this floor so sticky?
There's a long line outside. Okay.
Hot one out there, huh?
All right. Observational remarks are a good opener.
That's true.
And you must immediately then move away from observational remarks.
Right, because staying there is very boring.
If you're the person...
But it's a good opener.
It's a good opener. People will accept the observational opener, and they will loathe the person that only does observational humor, because then you have to move to the next step, which is you need to have an opinion about shit. That is the only thing that makes you unique in this space. They're with a group of friends, or they know other human beings that they're by themselves. The thing that you bring to the table is, I've given some thought about
things
playing pool in a bar. This is what I've noticed.
I have something unique to say that possibly you haven't heard 80,000 times, and maybe you've just heard twice.
Right.
Hopefully not at all, but that's a long shot.
And this comes to the sort of like round circle thing that we were getting at a little bit before, but I want to talk about people give advice when they talk about approaching people about being yourself. What the fuck does that mean?
That's awful. It's good advice and it's awful advice at the same time, because be yourself, it doesn't give any actionable items.
No.
I think what people really mean is don't lie, but put your best foot forward.
Or I'm going to break down what you and I have talked about, which is don't be a fucking yes person. Mm-hmm. And bring your opinions to the table.
Bring your point of view.
Your real thoughts and feelings.
And if you're afraid of being rejected based on your thoughts and feelings, I'm going to go back to something I said much earlier in this conversation, which is, aren't you looking for somebody to spend time with where you can relax and you don't have to put on this persona, because that sounds exhausting. So if you say something that is really part of your opinion and you believe, and the person doesn't like it, you go, oh, awesome. I've just saved both of us a ton of time and discomfort.
Huge thing in the dating space. Take no for an answer.
Yeah.
Oh my God. If you are not vibing with this person, do not let your dickful thinking make you push through. Do you like that phrase?
I do.
It's a Dan Savage phrase.
I really
it's not
do.
Mine.
Don't let the sunk cost fallacy make you think that you have to push harder and try more because you've already been talking for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Cut your losses and walk away.
If this person hates dogs, get the fuck out of there.
Leave.
We don't need any of that nonsense.
No.
Okay.
I don't date girls anymore that have cats, which is hard because a lot of women that eat pussy have cats. But I hate cats. I hate the way they smell. They know I hate them, and they come up to me and sit on my lap and snag my jeans, and then I don't want to have sex anymore. And so unless it's like, oh, I have an outdoor cat that I see once a week, I just know that I'm going to be uncomfortable if I'm ever in their space.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be a mind fuck for me. So I can't do it anymore. No more cats.
Yeah. Greg brought up a really great point. I think being rejected for your thoughts and feelings can be an indication to examine your thoughts and feelings. Absolutely.
100%.
You should, listen, being your authentic self is a great thing because it's either going to form a bond with this person or you're going to get rejected. And in both cases, there should always be self-examination.
Absolutely. We're not suggesting that you go into these interactions assuming that there is no more growth on your end that needs to happen, or that you have nothing to learn from these interactions, because you absolutely do. I think that's kind of the mentality that frustrates a lot of people, or frustrates a lot of women in this dynamic of like, yeah, you're frustrated that we're not dating you. You're frustrated that we're not giving you attention. What have you done to perhaps make yourself a little more appealing, a little more worthy of attention? Like if you haven't developed any social skills, if you don't have a sense of humor, if you don't know how to talk to somebody, and then you're angry at us because we're having a hard time connecting with you, that feels like a dead end. And that feels like you're putting the blame on us for something that is well within your control.
Yeah. I mean, can I say that is also a really big issue in the heteronormative space of dating women, of there is the presentation of like, I have a vagina, and so I don't have to bring anything else to the table.
Oh, 100%. That exists.
of like, I'm here to like laugh at jokes, but like, I don't need to be funny.
Yeah.
Or
just
have skills.
Right.
Like there are people that lean on the objectification process.
Absolutely, they do, because it benefits them and they know that it's going to work with the lowest common denominator of partners they're looking for.
Yeah.
And it applies to like in bed too. Like, oh, I have a vagina, so I don't have to show up and do anything. I don't have to put in any effort because you're the one with the penis. So it's on you to impress me and not the other way around.
And that's you and I had a really deep conversation one day that this kind of came out about, because this has been so challenging for women in that space, that a lot of women haven't formed any opinions about their wants, needs, or desires, frankly, because nobody asked.
Right. Absolutely.
And no one was ever even concerned in you taking the time to stop and think about it. And then you find yourself down the road being like, oh my God, I actually don't know
what I like,
or what I want.
Yeah, which is a really confusing place to be in.
Yeah.
And it can make you very resentful. We're not trying to say in this lovely little episode here that men suck and only men suck and only men need to fucking buck up and change some shit. because women are shitty too.
No, we've brought
That's
up
really quality.
We've brought up plenty of shitty things women do, and we've stood up for men's rights. But go. You got to go back to the don't
that
take
phrase,
don't
phrase
clip
is very
that. You got
triggering to me.
You got. I know. I can't say it without laughing. No. Okay, so you've got this group. You've approached them, or this person that you're interested in. You've approached them both in a single situation and a group situation. Now, because we're talking about picking up people, Rachel, how do we escalate this to sexy time?
Well, first of all,
in an ethical and wonderful way where both parties are interested.
Well, first of all, we've talked about this before, setting this expectation that no matter what, this needs to lead to sexy time, especially this needs to lead to sexy time tonight. It's not going to go well.
Right.
It's going to create a lot of anger. It's going to create a lot of disappointment.
You've got to get out of the checking the box space.
Get out of the checking the box.
You're not going to do a good job in a job interview, in like anything in life, if you are driven by the goal and you're not living in the moment that's happening.
Absolutely. So getting rid of expectations is definitely a step one. A step two, so if you've started the conversation and the conversation is flowing and they're not giving you one-word answers, they're not facing away from you, they're not and not asking you any questions in response to the things you're asking them or the things you're saying. Generally speaking, like I find this happens a lot in like online dating conversations too. If one person is the one asking the question or typing out a full sentence and all you're getting in return is yeah, no, LOL, just leave. Yeah. Clearly this person, whether or not they might have some kind of interest, they're not willing to demonstrate that they have any interest. So like just cut your losses.
Yeah, you don't want
It's the same thing in person. Look for eye contact. Look for that person facing you. Look for that person picking up on things you say in conversation and continuing the thought, leading it to another question. Like all of these things, if they seem to be participating in the conversation as much as you are, that is a very clear signal that like, okay, why don't you stick around and we'll see how this goes.
I put as my like step two in that, outside of like read the room and make sure there aren't big red no's, paying attention to the initial signs of physical connection.
Yes.
The initial places where you're like, well, we're just doing this little dance in whatever space you're in. So like one really great way, if you're sitting at the bar and you're on stools, it's like, man, our knees are touching now. Ooh, that's a great, if they're there, they're touching, they've been there for quite a long time. That is a little physical, yes.
And if you're not close enough, like, is the stool swiveling towards you?
Right.
Or is the stool kind of still, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Swiveled away. It's a very easy tell.
So there's like knees touching. There's also like, let's say we're sitting at a table and like the elbow lean gets a little long. It gets a little long of like, here's the person's face and I'm just kind of like getting down just a little bit closer. We're bridging that gap in our physical distance to each other.
There's some distance, and I don't know exactly what it is. I think it differs depending on culture, right? In Finnish culture, it's like if they're closer than the other end of the bar, you're doing great. But I think in America, it's about like, I think an appropriate distance for like strangers is perhaps like one average person's like shoulder width between the two of you.
Yeah.
Right? That's like, we're strangers, maybe we're politely talking, I don't know. If that distance starts to close and there's maybe like half a person's width between the two of you, or if that distance is just closer than it was when you first started, awesome sign.
Yeah.
Or this is one of my moves in the bar. If I'm trying to possibly escalate or demonstrate that I'm interested, if there is anything on the other side of the person I'm talking to that I could possibly need to reach for, I will reach for it. And as I reach for it, I will put my hand on that person's arm and go, "Oh, sorry, I just want to grab a napkin."
Is this a distinct move of yours?
Yeah, it is. That's move number 2. Move number 1 is catch somebody's eye, look away, catch it again, smile, and look away.
Okay.
That's my first move.
That's a great invite.
It is a great invite.
Yeah.
But that's move number 1. And then move number 2 is, oh, excuse me, I just want to grab a napkin. Or a straw, or like, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Just anything that I could conceivably reach for. Just hand on the forearm for a half a second.
I love that.
Thank you.
I will say some of my moves definitely just have to do with confident eye contact.
Not weird eye contact.
Not a stare. It's not a stare. And there's also something that people definitely clock, which is looking at somebody's lips.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a reason you see people do it in movies a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. There's also, if you're sitting across from each other, you know, the hands on the table are sort of like slowly starting to get closer to each other. These are all sort of like at the bar kind of signals. Mm-hmm. You know, there's definitely, I've done the leaning in with the arm. But what you're doing in this situation is you're clocking all the mini yeses that lead to like, hey, our connection has this vibe is going very well. It's getting to the point that like both of us are demonstrating a craving and an interest for more connection, for a next tier connection. Then this is the thing that I want more people to pay attention to, because it'll help you so much, because nobody stops and thinks about this shit, which is the shifts that happen in a date.
The energetic shifts?
No, I mean the actual shifts, like location shifts, moves, transitions. Sitting at the this is when you need to most pay attention, because when people are going through a shift, they are demonstrating their internal intentions out of the moment. So let's say you and I are at a table and I'm like, hey, do you want to go dance right now? I will learn everything about where you're at based on how you get up from this table and how you approach the dance floor. You're either doing it begrudgingly, or you're excited about it, or like you may be going out there and then you turn back and look for me, or you go out there and you don't turn back at all. When you are shifting from one section to another, that's where you're going to get the real read on people of whether or not in this next phase I should push things.
That's very interesting.
Because if I ask you to get up and dance and you're kind of begrudging about it, I know that when we get up there, I'm going to kind of power through this dance, but I'm going to give you the out.
Yeah. Or you're not going to push it. You're going to give the other person the opportunity to escalate.
I have to stop pushing.
Yeah.
I have to let this person feel a little more comfortable and drive the ship a little bit more.
Yeah.
And those transitions are really important, because just because, let's say I was watching Rachel's moves, she didn't really want to dance. I saw that she didn't really want to dance. You know what's an amazing thing for the next date is the fact that I pay attention to fucking signals. People love that. If you're like, oh, I could tell that like you weren't super into it, and I'm like, hey, do you just want to go sit at the bar?
Or like, hey, do you want to just go sit at that quieter table in the back so I can actually hear you?
Yeah. It's kind of loud on the dance floor. It's louder than I thought. Let's just go back.
Or like, hey, it's kind of loud here. I know this other place that's a little quieter. Do you want to go there?
Right.
Those nights are often like the most fun if I meet somebody and then they can propose like another idea of another public place to go. Like, oh, this night just became an adventure.
Right. So shifts are a huge part of dates. There's then the shift from this location to the home or the car. So let's say you came together, we'll say moving from the bar to the car. When I ask you for that shift, paying attention to your signals of, is this person interested in keeping this night going? Or is this person tired and like kind of done?
Ready to be over.
Because the thing is, you people out there, when you're dating somebody, you know these shifts. When you're with your partner, you're like, I know when they want to fucking leave.
At least hopefully.
Right.
If you're in a relationship, hopefully you know enough about your partner to be able to read their body language and energy.
Right. But the problem is those signals are often there in the very beginning. You're not paying attention to them because you're trying to get something out of this. I'm not paying attention to how you're walking to the car because I want you to come home.
I mean, and you know, the most generous interpretation is you're not reading it because you don't know them very well and you don't know what their particular signals are. But let's be real. That's again where this expectation kind of comes into play of like, if I have this expectation that we're going to sleep together tonight, all I'm going to look for is reasons to push for it and not reasons to stop or slow down.
Yeah. All right. So now we're in the car. Reading signals in the car. There's all kinds of signals.
So many.
Yeah.
So many.
Cars get very flirty.
Very fast. Or it gets really uncomfortable really fast.
Yes. The car, then this transition to the car is a great time for you to go, hey, how is this going? If this is still going well, the person is leaning towards you. They're talking and engaging a lot.
Shoulders are turned towards you.
Yeah. If they're not.
Maintaining eye contact.
They're looking at you when you're not looking at them.
Especially they're looking at you if the conversation has a little bit of a lull and eye contact is still maintained. Whew.
Yeah.
Whew, the tension in that moment.
Right. So then park the car. There's another shift that happens, which is like, all right, we're at this next destination. Are we going in together or is this the end? There can be a myriad of different things that happen in this moment. They can just not want the evening to end, but not want to go inside, which means lingering inside and continuing the conversation. Who hasn't had a car conversation that went until like 4 in the morning?
Oh my God.
And they're incredible.
They're great.
Yeah. You love them, you're vibing, and that's great. And that might be a huge win for that evening. How do we know that we should go inside?
If you're invited, that's pretty good. That's pretty
a good one.
That's a pretty
the
good
invitation,
indicator.
Big green light.
Right.
Right.
Like that's about the biggest green light you're
now,
gonna get.
Let's say, I mean, if you're driving you're together, you know, if you're like, hey, I had a really great time, you're like, oh, you can come up. That's obviously an invitation. Or like, if you're the person that is getting dropped off and you would like to have them come up, how do you read that signal of like whether you should extend the invitation?
I mean, again, it's a lot of these body signals. This may feel a little awkward physically, but I'm a really big fan of like the car kiss. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah, be a fan.
If I haven't kissed somebody yet, I don't want to invite them into my space because inviting them into my space escalates the tension.
Yep.
It might escalate the expectation a little bit. And there's no nice way to put this. If you're not a good kisser, I'm not going to want to fuck you. That's it. It ends there. I need some kind of little like, is there sexual chemistry here beyond this tension that we've built up over this entire evening?
Right.
I'm a huge fan of the car kiss, car makeout. And that usually happens with like a moment of quiet, maintaining eye contact, and like, hey, I've been wanting to kiss you all night. Can I kiss you? Amazing line. If I'm like maintaining eye contact with them, yes, the answer is yes, I want to kiss them. I want to audition the kissing before we have a call back up in the apartment. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'll give you guys another tool that a lot of people don't think about. If you're worried, because again, going from the car to the house is a big jump. if you're worried about making that transition, you can make another alt transition, which is like, hey, do you want to go for a walk?
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to go home yet, but you know.
Yeah. And I mean, you don't always have to say like, do you want to come up? It can be like, hey, I have that album that we were talking about if you wanted to listen to it. Or, you know, like,
or what,
there's a
like,
million ridiculous.
Do you want to watch a movie?
Do you want to watch a movie?
You want to go watch a movie?
Yeah, at 1:30 in the morning, I want to watch a movie. Absolutely.
Or a clear signal if the person hasn't sent you the invitation, that you can create an invitation for them to say yes or no is, I'm not really tired yet.
Yeah. I'm not really tired yet. Do you have to work? So what do you have going on tomorrow? Do you have to work? No. I don't have work in the morning.
Great. I mean, I'm not really tired. Are you?
No, I'm not tired.
Okay.
Do you want to like?
That's it. That's how it works.
That's it.
That's how
Are
do
you
it.
tired? No.
Are you
Great.
tired? Yeah. But are you tired is a great way of being like, it's giving them an out. And that is the biggest part of like these ethical tiered escalations of things is like, I'm creating an ask with the with the ability for you to say no.
It's
without making it weird for either of us.
If you can picture like a long hallway with a series of doors, what you're doing is opening the next door, opening the next door, opening the next door, and seeing if they want to come through. Not trying to shut the door they came through behind them as soon as they come through, because that's terrifying. It's just, hey, if you want to come through this door with me, cool. And if you want to make an exit, that is also totally cool. Having that energy of whatever you choose, I will be fine. My life will continue. I will not blow up at you. I will not be super angry if you don't decide to go through this door. I'm not trying to cut off your exit because I don't need to trap you. Why would I? No. I'm awesome. And of course you want to spend time with me. And if you don't, I'm awesome enough on my own.
And that's coming back to the like, hey, I'm a person of value.
Right. I have inherent value without conquering you. I have inherent value without taking anything from you, without you affirming me. Like there's
I'm giving you the opportunity to get a lot without me taking anything from you. And people love that sales pitch.
I want you. I don't need you, but I want you. Whew.
Okay.
Whew.
Now we're inside. There's yet another shift.
Are we going to sit down on the couch? Most likely.
Yeah. Are we going from the living room to the bedroom? This is it's another opportunity for you to like read the room. And let me put this out there. If this is a date where things are going to get physical, and maybe this is just my opinion to make things less weird for everybody. If you're not making out in the living room, don't shift things to the bedroom.
No. Living room makeout is where it starts.
Yeah. If you're in the living,
unless it's a studio apartment,
right? Well, also
and
unless
even
like
then,
they have roommates and there's a common space. If they're like, oh, my TV's in my bedroom, fine,
right?
But and also let me put this out there: if someone's like, hey, my TV's in my bedroom, let's go watch it in there. That's not your green light for sex either.
No,
you still have to get all of the yeses built
along
up
the way.
And somebody's saying, hey, come watch a movie in my bedroom and then I'm going to expect you to go home is not them teasing you. They don't fucking owe you anything. Like that's another space that people get into a lot of trouble. Is that entitlement space of like,
I've mentioned this before, but like one of my techniques in dating to see if I'm safe and if I'm around a safe person is to set up like small boundaries and see if they're respected. So like, even if I've gotten to the point where we're like here and there's roommates in the common room, and so we're like watching a movie, if let's say we like start kissing and we're making out and I pull back, I'm just like, I just need to take a breath for a second, and they respect that and pull back and go, yeah, oh my God, totally fine. Then for me, that's a green light in terms of like, oh, this person is going to listen to me. Yeah. If I need something, they're open to it. But if I try to like pull back and they push in harder, that's going to make me want to cut it off and get up, because at that point I'm like, oh, am I going to stay safe here? Maybe not. I don't ever want to be in question of whether or not I'm safe.
Yeah. I mean, there's also the testing of your boundaries being respected could just be like you go into the bedroom, you're like, hey, let's sit on the floor instead of sitting on the bed. And if they're like, oh no, but the bed's comfortable, it's like, I just told you.
Listen to what the fuck I just said to you.
I just fucking told you.
Please. Yeah. Or even like, I've had a lot of interactions where I've said, hey, look, I'm not tired and I want to keep hanging out and I'm glad you're here. But just so you know, I don't want to have sex tonight. Or I would really like it if we just kept it to kissing and making out. Like, just a lot of times those conversations can be hard for people to have, but I find it helpful.
I think they're fucking spectacular.
I love them, but there's no, those conversations take practice, and it's not something you see demonstrated a lot. You know what I mean? Of like, hey, just so you know, I'm glad you're here, but I'm really not up to having sex tonight, or I'm really not up to this, or do you mind if we just keep it PG for now? Mm-hmm. And putting out those boundaries ahead of time, super helpful, because then the other person isn't left like, do they want this? Do they not want this? So if you're on the side of like, this is as far as I want to go tonight, you're doing the other person a huge favor. And if that person doesn't listen to you and tries to push past those boundaries, then they've done you a favor, and they've shown you that they're not a safe person.
Man. Okay, so we're there. We've successfully talked about seeing a person at the bar, reading the various signals, escalating the physical connection, following them along in the various shifts. We're there. It's happening. We have picked a person up, and who knows what could happen. Whether this is a thing that continues to grow and blossom, or this was just a fun thing that we did for whatever.
And I also want to put as an aside, like, the whole Andrew Tate pickup artist approach is based on lies and inauthenticity. And a lot of people think that if all they want is a one-night stand, or if all they want is casual sex, they need to participate in the lie, in the inauthenticity. That if that's what you want, you have to make it seem like it's not, and you need to manipulate people. And I want to say that I heartily disagree with that. That if what you are looking for is just kind of casual, there is an opportunity for you to say, God, you are really hot. I'm just looking for something casual. How do you feel about that? Or like, so like, you know, what are you looking for right now?
That's a great way to start it, is what are you looking for right now?
What are you looking for? Because, you know, this whole thing of like, oh, I need to make them think that I'm high value, think that I want a relationship, think all of these things that are a total fabrication. And a lot of these conversations may not come up in that first night. They might come up a little bit further along the way. But just like, lots of people are just down for casual sex. Mm-hmm. And there's a way to phrase it and make it not weird and not
mutually beneficial.
And mutually beneficial.
And you know what's the best part about mutually beneficial casual sex? You can do it way more.
Yeah.
People are much happier having mutually beneficial casual sex. And also, this is something for everyone out there that we all kind of think about and experience, and it's even more true with like Instagram and social media. These people are not having as much sex as they are presenting that they are.
Oh, I can't imagine that they are.
Right. Jesus. We get fixated on like
the numbers.
Anyone that is having potentially theoretically more sex than we are having. And then we're like, that person is doing it right, and I want their life. But you don't know. You don't know all the things that are going on in the
You don't
nuances of the date. Like they could be like, dude, I'm having casual sex every night of the week. And it's like, oh, you're having gross, sad sex with people that are like not in a good place. And
Yeah.
no, that's not.
You are people's rock bottom 5 nights a week. Congratulations.
And they talk shit about you and they're dissatisfied. And yeah.
I still remember the absolute worst lay I ever had. Do you want to be that person? I can almost guarantee you don't want to be the worst lay somebody ever has.
Yeah. And these dudes are not bragging to their friends about being the worst in bed. They brag about the things they take from people. But if all those people were like, oh, yeah, I did sleep with that person, and they are hands down worst human being I've ever slept with. Saddest experience of my life.
I got up the next morning and I checked myself into rehab. I got up the next morning and I called my therapist.
Yeah.
You never want to be the reason that somebody's like, I really got to change my fucking life.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us. This was quite the adventure in the pickup space.
Trying to pick people up is not inherently bad.
No.
The way Andrew Tate does it is.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's inauthentic. It's toxic. It's absolute bullshit. And anybody who has any sense of value will see through it immediately.
People wanting to have sex with each other is a good thing.
It's a great thing.
If it's good for both people involved.
And if they both genuinely want it.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. This was great. I love talking to you.
I love talking to you, Peter.
Anyway, that's the end of our show. We'll see you next week.
See you next week, y'all. Bye. Thank you.